Me singing this like I don't have the special ed accent. Hi, hello, and welcome back to my system. Last night, Dwayne The Rock Johnson and Wanda from Fairly Odd Parents had a very mystical session, and now we have 5 new littles. If you're questioning my experience at all, please educate yourself, because it's 100% the truth and definitely not misinformation that I've assigned to a serious mental disorder. I've been trying my best to stay away from this fatal tear in the multiverse, but something about it always finds a way to arcade claw me back in. Foolishly, I had some hope in this trend dying and decomposing into the TikTok floorboards, but God was I mistaken, because it's somehow spiraled even more. If you're new here, I'll give you a quick review of the disorder ladder. At the top, we have faking disorders as a whole, and below are the fan favorites, DID and Tourette's, which is what I'd usually say, but shockingly there has been a discovery, a phasing out, if you will, or rather just replacing it with something far worse. Whilst on my adventure of sailing across the forbidden seas and witnessing literal crimes done on camera, I've come to realize that DID just isn't very popular anymore. Instead, it's being trampled by autism and replaced with new disorders that we're just making up now, including being trans autistic. Me, when I found out being hypersexual could be a form of stimming. No, this is what stimming could look like. This is a way to stim. This is a way to stim. This is not a stim. This is a federal crime. Oh no, I'm sorry, officer. I wasn't jerking off in the Rainforest Cafe. I was stimming. Hey doc, I keep having this problem. Okay, how long has it been like this? About 10 minutes now. It's autism. Yes, it's terminal, and I have a stim that can fix this. Next time when I hit someone with my car, I'll be sure to mention that I accommodate my autism by pressing the pedal to the floor.
Hey guys, so today I'm going to share with you some helpful signs for finding out if you're trans autistic.
Oh, okay, well thank God, because I've just been dying to transform into my autism sauna. Being trapped inside of these normie walls is oh so painful. You wish you had more sensory issues. You feel like you're not autistic enough. You feel anxious all the time for not being able to transition. What? You feel a lot better when you act autistic. You heard about autism and felt an immediate connection. Being autistic isn't something to be ashamed of or deprecate over, but it also isn't something to idolize or desire. Something that I've realized on TikTok is autism is highly presented in an infantilizing way with traits that are often childlike and associated with cutesy terminology, making it appealing and like a club for people to submit applications to. The problem is autism isn't commonly like this at all, and it shouldn't be rebranded into a safe haven for quirky behavior like preferring small spoons over large ones, because yes, this may be a pattern that a lot of autistic people tend to follow, but it doesn't mean that every person who does it is autistic. That's just one small example, and surely this applies to various other disorders as well, but the club phenomenon is seriously damaging communities of people who truly do have these things.
The sexual alter in the system talking dirty. Literally everyone else in the system.
Sexualizing DID? I did not see that one coming. Yeah, my alters sometimes go around and traumatize everyone because they get bored.
I came out of dormancy to a completely beautiful dream life.
The caption for this is, I feel so grateful to have DID right now. I'm not questioning the legitimacy of their diagnosis here, but rather their self-proclaimed symptoms. I don't know how to be dangerous. Lavender, how many times do we have to go through this? You have DID. You're inherently dangerous. So you're grateful to have DID, but you're also dangerous? I mean, I don't think that's good representation. Causes someone's death. Last time I checked, this actually was not a symptom of DID. There's so many stereotypes of DID being a guaranteed serial killer spawner, like seen in Split, which was an awful movie. How that parasitic entity made it out of a studio is beyond me. I don't know why you'd ever post something so gross like this, especially when knowing it affects your entire community and not just you.
It's mine! No! You, it's mine! I can't see!
Yes, my Tourette's also makes me do this. Get out of the way, I'm gonna blow! This doesn't look healthy at all in the slightest. The way the mom is egging on her tics and recording it instead of helping her is pure neglect.
Are you okay? I can't see!
She's gonna try and take it off ya.
No!
Chloe?
Ah!
No. You're not having the basket. No.
You.
Ow.
For anyone out there who doesn't know, when you're speaking to someone with real Tourette's, it's important to ignore the tics in conversation because they are not a part of the conversation at all. They are involuntary. If you acknowledge someone's tics, it's actually a trigger for them to tic more. If she really did get stuck in a laundry basket because her tics were so severe, why is your first reaction as a parent to pick up a phone and start recording her for a TikTok?
Is this some music? Chloe? We're gonna put some music on. Where's your phone?
There is a special level of hell for parents who encourage their kids to play ill for views, and she's definitely VIP next to the Norris nuts section. These tics are completely fake. They change situationally and lack repetition. Having 50 different tics in 5 minutes is not realistic. I found another video of theirs where you can see just how clearly the tics are being faked and also how they are encouraged by the mother. Listen close when she says hello.
You know that's your own reflection.
Fight me, bitch. Fight me, bitch. Hello. Hello. Hello.
With genuine Tourette's, the tics are uncontrollable and all sound the same. Sure, there may be some cases where it's varied, but this is not one of them. The tone, pitch, and physical movement are all done without thought.
Ah!
Yes, because Tourette's is when demonic possession.
No.
Fight me.
No.
Fight me.
I love you.
And again, tics are not conversational, they're often painful, and triggering them purposefully is one of the worst things you can do. Now surely that mother self-diagnosed her kid because no logical doctor in their right mind would call that theatrical performance Tourette's. Self-diagnosis is a huge thing on TikTok, and I've talked about it before on streams, in videos, whatever, and I'll say it again. Self-diagnosis, in the way that TikTok has redefined the term, is never ever valid. But speculation is. TikTok has a habit of finding a word and then rewriting its entire definition because they're bored, and I'm quite tired of it. Self-diagnosis is actually valid in cases where you don't have access to proper medical care and need solutions for things that are minor. If you get sick, your throat's itchy and your head hurts, you go, oh, I think I might have a cold, and so you go to the store and you get medicine. 5 days later, you feel perfectly fine, and you didn't have to fork out $500 to see a doctor because you self-diagnosed yourself in that moment. Let's say later down the line you're repeatedly sick and you're starting to think something's critical and it's not just hay fever, so you go to Google, it tells you that you're dying of cancer, have hypoglycemia, and 30 seconds from now you'll be going into septic shock. By chance, all of your symptoms indicate lupus. You start genuinely believing you have lupus until you go to a doctor, to where then you find out it's not lupus, it's arthritis. Because the overlap is so profound, you actually thought you had lupus, but now with the help of a doctor you can correctly treat what's wrong with you. Physical ailments and mental ones are different when it comes to self-diagnosis, especially since psychological issues have a lot of overlaps, but it works somewhat similarly. Self-diagnosis works for things that are minor and short-term situations. It doesn't work for complex disorders. If you're autistic and you start realizing you're autistic, you probably are. Non-autistic people don't sit around researching autism, questioning themselves and overanalyzing every single aspect of their life up until now. So you're telling me that one time I had a special interest in Chernobyl and researched every detail about it, that I was actually one of the reactors? You're saying that if I Google a giant squishmallow, I'll become one? You know your own brain. Self-diagnosed autism is valid, and you're not hurting anyone / taking up any space by leaning into your autistic identity and accommodating yourself. Leaning into your autistic identity is a very interesting choice of words, I must say. I'm not sure why we're referencing autism like this sexuality, but I'll roll with it. Like I said earlier, questioning if you're autistic is perfectly fine. Doing loads of research into autism is okay. The first step in getting diagnosed by a doctor is realizing that there's something off. It only becomes an issue when you settle on calling yourself autistic, take away resources from autistic people, and speak for the community. I don't think I've ever said this before, but I am autistic, and I've been in places before where I've had to use their sensory-safe, secluded rooms, and the amount of people in there who were recording TikTok dances and treating the place like a museum was a little weird. I initially watched this next video open-minded and was left completely dumbfounded with my jaw dropped 6 feet to the ground because of how confidently wrong they were.
This is how conversations go with people that are against self-diagnosis. Self-diagnosing autism is really bad because those people can spread around misinformation. But you know that professionally diagnosed people can also spread around bad misinformation?
Do you think someone who's autistic is going to share their experiences about being autistic wrongfully? This is just the first 10 seconds and it's already Tumblr word vomit. Anyone can spread around misinformation, but in the case of autism, who do you think is going to be damaging the community more? Someone speaking on its behalf who is diagnosed autistic, or someone who is assuming they're autistic?
Yeah, but they're diagnosed, like we know that they're not faking. You do know that there's a lot of misdiagnoses with professionals with things like OCD, anxiety, BPD. Yeah, but the doctors are educated and these people that are self-diagnosing don't know, like, anything. You know that most of these people self-diagnosing probably know more about autism than the actual doctors do?
Okay, so let's unpack this. They're saying that there's a lot of professional misdiagnosis and then that they actually know more about autism than actual doctors. Yes, there's commonly misdiagnosis. I was misdiagnosed. Now sure, you may believe you know everything about autism down to its core, but I can assure you a doctor knows a lot more. And if you're scared a doctor is going to misdiagnose you, yet you'll somehow get the magical disorder roulette right, you're not neurodivergent, you're delusional. Also, let me introduce you to confirmation bias. It's in the same way a doctor can't diagnose themselves because it's a conflict of interest. If you're researching into self-diagnosing yourself with autism and you think you may be autistic, you're probably going to genuinely believe you are autistic. For the part where they said they know more than doctors, it reminded me of the autism test that was floating around on TikTok. I don't remember the name of it, but I'll throw it up. People in the neurotic self-diagnosis community were using that as a way to self-officiate their autism diagnosis or gain social currency, but it's not that simple. The truth is, an autism diagnosis isn't just checking a few boxes on a BuzzFeed clone test. It's not even just symptoms. It's behavioral observations, interviews, family interviews, functioning tests, IQ tests. Your little late-night docuseries, Tumblr deep dives don't even come close to the years of research that's been put in by qualified scientists. No matter how bad you wish it were true, the For You page is incapable of issuing you a doctoral degree. Again, there's a difference between thinking you may be autistic and then just claiming you're autistic.
Self-diagnosis is valid, and I have evidence to back up that claim.
Okay, I'm ready for this evidence. I'm strapped in. Hopefully they don't use any marginalized groups as puppets for an awful talking point, because that would be totally unheard of and odd.
So let's strap in for a few minutes and talk about self-diagnosis and why it's valid, and why to be against it is inherently classist, racist, sexist, and ableist. And trust me, that is not a stretch of a claim.
Okay, because it would be insane to stretch on any of those topics.
First of all, we have evidence to show that when it comes to autism, that self-diagnostic tools can be quite accurate.
Okay, so will that headline screenshot there make me a surgeon?
And valid.
I actually ended up going and reading this study for myself, and funnily enough, it says none of these instruments have sufficient validity to reliably predict a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder in outpatient settings.
More importantly, we have evidence to suggest that a professional diagnosis is not really reliable for certain marginalized communities. There are severe racial and ethnic disparities.
So remember earlier when we said there would be zero stretching? There's some truth in what they're saying about racial inequalities, but it was ruined the second they tied it to self-diagnosis. There's a lot of medical neglect in the Black community, especially when it comes to mental health care because of eugenics and racial bias. Especially in America, Black people tend to be more dismissive of their mental health and less likely to seek medical intervention because of their mistrust in the healthcare system, which has failed them for generations now. It's not that the Black community or POC alike are jumping at the idea of self-diagnosis, they just distrust the healthcare system. It's a result of racism and shouldn't be used as a crutch to prove yourself in an unrelated argument. Instead of weaponizing the Black community, maybe just advocate for less medical discrimination and equality. Now, thankfully, some people do respect existing communities, so instead of damaging them, they made new ones with pride flags. I don't know why we need flags to represent disorders, but if you're going to make one for your bubonic plague 3000 roleplay disorder group, at least make it look good. Seriously, what is this thing supposed to be? Kaleidoscope disorder? Mirius visium. I feel like I may have just casted a spell or two by accident. From the Latin word miris, meaning wonderful, in reference to Alice in Wonderland due to the absurdity of mirvism headspace. Flag inspired by psychedelic art. I really enjoyed the added coined by me, as if anyone in the world was going to take credit for a fictional illness that sounds like autism for wizards. This disorder is a nonsensical headspace where places can just stop existing, furniture may move or defy gravity, and the time of day can shift suddenly. I think what you need is not a made-up disorder, but actually a drug test. This sounds like it's coming from someone who has done one too many psychedelics. Somno blank Itia. And another flag, of course, because why else have a disorder if you can't wear a little pastel flag on your chest to let everyone know that you experience difficulty falling asleep unless under a blanket? They then list a very long list of symptoms of something that every human being on Earth experiences. The underlying cause of this disorder is an intense feeling of paranoia or anxiety. No, I just don't want my toes to fall off in this weather. Majorexia. Okay, well, this flag also sucks. And what is that? A shit stain? Majorexia is in which one desires to gain weight constantly, as opposed to anorexia, where one wants to lose it. Okay, surely that last bit could have been explained better since it's something that people actually have. People with majorexia may go through extreme lengths to gain weight, such as binge eating, being physically inactive, and having an improper diet, so it's just being a feeder, and glamorizing binge eating disorders. Maybe it's hard to grasp, and I know a lot of you guys are trans autistic, so it's quite, exhausting to read those social cues, so let me spell it out for you. Disorders are not sexual orientations, they don't need flags, and they're also not created by TikTok-dwelling attention seekers, they're determined by scientists. Cuff-tabled. Okay, you know what? I'm not hating this flag right now. A trans-abled term where one likes the idea of having one or more mental or physical disabilities, but doesn't actually want to have it. I really like the idea of having Parkinson's. So to translate this disorder, it's actually just being in love with the nurtured aesthetic of being disabled thanks to TikTok's warped perspective. This isn't a disorder at all. It's a self-report for ableism. The day in my life as a disabled person isn't as glamorous as it seems. Collecting disabilities should not be a hobby. Anyway, that's the end of this video. I'm probably going to be doing another one of these soon, so subscribe or don't. Here's my Twitter, and leave the people in this video alone. You know who you are. Bye.